Watching the Common Fan Podcast, the place where SEC heat, wild predictions, and zero-filter football fans talk. I'm your host, Bryce Tillman. Let's crank it up and talk ball.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Bryce Tillman. Thank you for joining me in today on this Monday show of the Common Fan Podcast. Kyle and Cam had some personal matters to attend to today, so we've been all on the run all weekend. I thought we'd do a quick video real quick for you guys to drop on this Monday. And we're going to be talking about the 2026 SEC football schedules that come out. I'm not going to break down the schedules. We have a whole off season that Cam, Kyle, and I are going to dive into and break down for y'all. But just want to touch on some of the pros and cons to the new SEC schedule, with it moving from an 8-game conference to a 9-game conference. You know, how that impacts your strength of schedule. Does strength of schedule even weigh into the college football playoffs anymore? And we're just going to dive into it today and talk about a few of these non-conference matchups here for some of these teams in the SEC, along with the non-conference games. So it's going to be pretty interesting. And like I said, we have a whole offseason that we're going to dive into it. And with the playoffs and stuff coming up this weekend on our Thursday live show, we're going to do our predictions and give a preview of the games and so on and whatnot. But always fun to look forward to, the future and the upcoming schedules for a lot of these teams getting to play each other. They haven't got to play in, 2 years, since it's been divided from the East and the West. So a lot of these, the West teams getting to come back and play each other again. A lot of the East teams coming back and getting to play each other again. So pretty cool stuff, and we're going to dive into it today. Before we do that, guys, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It means a ton for us. It helps us out around here, and we appreciate all the support that y'all give us. And so I have a graphic here, and I'm going to pull it up. And excuse me if I sound a little sniffy here. I've been kind of under the weather a little bit. Let's see if I can get this pulled up for y'all real quick. All right. So I'm not sure if y'all can see it, but I'm going to follow along on the screen with y'all and kind of read it out to y'all. This is all of the schedules broken down into one graphic per team from week 1 to week 13. Key week 1 matchups that I want to note out. We'll start with Auburn versus Baylor. This game was supposed to have been at Auburn, but part of Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta come out and guaranteed a bunch of NIL monetization to Auburn to move the game from being at Auburn to Atlanta to play in Mercedes. So it front-loaded potential $5 million. So Auburn was able to take this $5 million front-loaded because they got to go and play at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta to use towards NIL, towards portal, high school recruiting, roster retention, whatnot. Right now, they was able to use that $5 million up front. And then now also, because it was supposed to have been a home game for Auburn, they're allotted 80% of the tickets at this game. So if you're a Baylor fan and you're coming from Waco, Texas, better go ahead and hop on your tickets, because supposedly Baylor was only allotted 20% of the sale tickets at this game in Atlanta. So, it's going to be different. Auburn having a new coach, Alex Golish. Baylor having Dave Aranda, assuming that he's going to stay. I'm pretty sure it come out and they said that he was going to stay there. But they're going to have a lot of new players. Sorry, Robinson's not going to – I think he's probably going to move on. I would imagine. He's not confirmed that yet, but I think he does have one more year eligibility. So does he choose to use that at Baylor? Does he choose to move on to the NFL or the portal? My gut feeling says the latter of that, but it all depends on Jake Spavital, what he decides to do, if he's going to stay at Baylor, if he's going to move on elsewhere as well, which is the offensive coordinator there. So interesting matchup. Auburn was able to go to Waco first game of this year, come out with a big win. So Baylor will be fired up, wanting to even that series out. And then Auburn, under the new direction of Alex Golish, they're going to be fired up, wanting to win that game. And what Auburn fans typically like to call Auburn East in Atlanta, because they play a lot in Atlanta between basketball, baseball, football, softball, you name it. It's not really far from Auburn. So I think that was a smart grab by the athletic director, John Cohen, on agreeing to do that game at Atlanta. because of all the benefits behind it. So interesting week 1 matchup, and I believe that's going to be a Chick-fil-A kickoff game. So that'll be very, very fun. Coming on down, LSU opens up the season with Clemson again, and that's going to be a very interesting game. Clemson coming to LSU, Baton Rouge. Will be Lane Kiffin's first game as a head coach for LSU against, a struggling Clemson team this year, but historically shows us that Dabo Swinney's always going to have a great ball team, and it's going to be super, super exciting. That game always lives up to expectations. Whoever plays Clemson week 1, it never fails that it's always a good game between them. So that's going to be really, really cool to see. Excited to see what Lane Kiffin, how he puts together his staff, retaining his roster, the high school recruiting, what he decides to do in the portal. The LSU team is going to have a major overhaul to it. I firmly believe that this LSU team, Lane Kiffin has just as good of a chance as anybody else this year 1, to get in and take that team to the playoffs. So really excited to see about what Lane Kiffin can do at LSU. Great coach. I have no doubt that he can do it there, because they're giving him all the tools that's needed for him to succeed there. So pretty neat there. Another interesting matchup week 1 is Ole Miss, the school that Lane Kiffin left. Now Pete Golden's the head coach there, will be taking on Louisville. And that's assuming that Jeff Brown doesn't take a head coaching spot anywhere else. He will be Louisville's coach still. So Ole Miss versus Louisville week 1, man. I really like that game right there. Keep an eye on that one. That's going to be super interesting as well. I don't really have a lot of info on, what to look for as far as what to expect in that game coming up week 1. But again, we have a whole offseason ahead of us, so that game will be exciting nonetheless, and we'll break it all down when we do our schedule predictions, and records and whatnot. So before you get into conference play, you see this year, because of the 9-game conference schedule, you'll see SEC opponents going into conference play week 2. You've got Alabama going in week 2, going to Kentucky to play Kentucky. You've got, let's see here. You don't have – I think that's the only conference game week 2 is Alabama versus Kentucky at Lexington. So that's pretty neat. But in week 2, you also have Arkansas going to Utah. Big 12 opponent there for Arkansas, going to Utah to play them. Utah's head coach just stepped down after 21 seasons. Who are they going to hire for their next head coach? And then, of course, Arkansas coming in with Ryan Silverfield being their new head coach. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup right there. Arkansas going to Utah. Wow, that's neat. And how about this game? Mississippi State, week 2, going to Minnesota to play against P.J. Fleck and the boys up there, man. That's a pretty neat game, too. Mississippi State's had some pretty interesting non-conference opponents here the past couple of years. They've not shied away from playing Power 4 opponents. Just this past year and last year, we've seen them have a 2-year series against Arizona State. And I think 2 years before that, they played Arizona. So, and then now I'm assuming they'll have a 2-year stretch here with Minnesota, which them starting out this in 2026, going to Minnesota, and then 2027, I'm assuming they'll probably return to Mississippi State to play them. So, really cool matchup there. And then, of course, everybody likes the old rivalry that's kind of rekindled itself here with Missouri and Kansas. Back when they were both in the Big 12, that was always a big rivalry between them. I think that rivalry dates back way further than just that, though. I mean, that's a pretty old school rivalry there between them. Now, this year, Kansas come to Missouri, but now for 2026, Missouri will have to go to Kansas. So it'll be a road game for Missouri. It'll be a test for them, and that's a good early test to deal it out in week 2. There's 2 more right here, 3 more actually. No, 4. There's 4 games right here that the week 2 is loaded in the 2026 right here for SEC, because you've got Oklahoma going to Michigan to play Michigan. They played each other this year. Oklahoma was able to win that game. Oklahoma goes to Michigan to play them. And then you have Tennessee going to Georgia Tech in week 2 of 2026 at Georgia Tech. That's going to be a phenomenal game right there between them. You also have Texas hosting Ohio State in week 2. You have Texas A&M playing Arizona State in week 2. So a lot of Power 4 non-conference opponents in just week 1 and week 2, and then it gets into the gauntlet in this 9-game SEC schedule. And this is going to be the topic of the offseason is if the committee is not going to take into consideration strength of schedule from here on out, was it worth or was it the right move for the SEC to go to a 9-game schedule? Now, the fan side of it, the SEC homerism and all of it says, yes, absolutely. We want as many SEC games as we can see a year. This is for the fans. This is what the fans love. This is what we want to see week in and week out. We want to see the best play against the best. And to y'all's point, I agree with that. But if you look at it from the longevity side of it, and if you look at it from the SEC conference as a whole, you got to really look back and say, if I'm Greg Sankey, was this the right move for us to be able to get as many SEC teams as we can into the playoffs every year, constantly, repeatedly, year in, year out, SEC teams there? And to me, I felt like the SEC beat itself up enough in just 8 games a year, and then now you're going to 9, you're taking one of your FCS opponents away, adding another Power 4 opponent there in your own conference. It's going to shake things up a little bit. So that's interesting. I'd like to hear what y'all's thoughts are on that. Comment below. Tell me what you think. Do you think that the 9-game conference was the right thing? The 9-game schedule in conference was the right thing to do, or should we stay with 8 games? Personally, I'm on the 9-game. I think 9 games are great. But I see both sides to this. I see both sides to it. So let me know what y'all think about that. It's going to be interesting. I'm super excited about it. So week 3, I'm not going to break down all these schedules individually. Like I said, we have a whole offseason to do that. I just want to touch on some major games throughout each week of the season and just kind of pinpoint, show you how much football we have to look forward to in 2026. So Alabama played the first SEC matchup of the season in week 2. So in week 3, they have their rematch against Florida State. So they'll play Florida State. Florida State will come to Tuscaloosa in this matchup, and I think Alabama will probably get that one. They should get that one. That's just early look in who should win it. I say Alabama should get that one. And then it starts. You have Arkansas playing Georgia. Georgia comes to Arkansas. You have Auburn playing Florida. Florida comes to Auburn. The first time I believe that Auburn's hosted Florida since 2011. 2011. It's been a while since the Gators have come to Auburn. So it's going to be a pretty neat matchup there. Week 3. Week 3 is when LSU and Lane Kiffin return to the Grove to face Ole Miss and Pete Golden and the boys. That stadium is going to erupt with pure just hatred, spite, anger, something to prove, a chip on their shoulder to get after Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss wants that game bad. LSU wants it bad. That's going to be an amazing matchup. Week 3, Ole Miss, LSU. LSU coming to Ole Miss to battle it out with them. It's going to be an amazing matchup there. Let's see. For week 3, as far as major games go, that's all I've got on week 3. So week 4 comes around. Week 4 comes around, and you've got Georgia playing Oklahoma. Oklahoma has to go to Georgia, I believe. Let me look. Yes. Oklahoma is at Georgia week 4. And if we assume that Oklahoma is going to carry the same success into next year as they have this year, that should be a really interesting matchup right there in Athens. So the Georgia fans are looking forward to that. And Oklahoma says, hey, this is our shot. We've just shown that we're with the big dogs. We belong. I mean, they belong there now, in my opinion. They're in the playoffs. Okay, South Carolina has to go to Alabama week 4. Let's hope Shane Beamer and the boys get it together. Hope they get it together because it has not been looking good. Excuse me. All right. So week 4 also lines up to where Tennessee and Texas play each other. Tennessee, yes. Tennessee will be home. So Texas comes to Tennessee week 4, and that'll be a well thought out battle right there. That'll be super exciting, super interesting. All right, so week 5 is when some bye weeks come in. Ole Miss, I have a bye. Oklahoma, I have a bye. And Texas, I have a bye. And I'm going to assume that Ole Miss or Oklahoma and Texas are going to have the byes because the following week in week 6 is the Red River rivalry. Yes, that is correct. So they both will be on a bye week to prepare for that historic rivalry right there. But week 5, you have Auburn going to Tennessee. That's a team. That's a game. A team that Auburn's not really played a whole lot here in recent years, and going to Tennessee be pretty neat with Alex Golesh coming back and playing against the Heupel, which was the guy that pretty much broke Golesh out as an offensive coordinator before and kind of got him on his path to a head coach. That'll be a super interesting matchup there. You got Florida going to Missouri week 5. That'll be a really good game. Really good game. You got to assume that Eli Drinkwitz will have Missouri prepared and John Summerall's out to make a statement this year. So week 5, Florida at Missouri will be really, really interesting. And then you have Vanderbilt at Georgia week 5. So Jared Curtis, the quarterback. Depends on where you look at nationally. Some places had him ranked number 1. Some places had him ranked number 3 overall. Either way, highest rated player ever signed with Vanderbilt's flipped from Georgia, going to take on the role and take over Diego Pavia's spot, and he'll have his test against Georgia week 5 at Georgia. So he'll get to see what it's all about for him. So that'll be super interesting. Week 6, another rematch of Alabama versus Georgia. I don't know about y'all, but I am just about sick of watching that game. Now, all jokes aside, it's always a great matchup, right? You never know really truly who's going to win that game. It's truly, just a coin toss. Georgia having to go back to Tuscaloosa. Alabama was able to go to Georgia this year and beat them in regular season. Georgia just beat them in the SEC championship. And then who knows? The way the playoffs go, we might see them play for a national championship this year. Who knows? So another match between Alabama and Georgia, week 6. Let's see. Let's just scrolling down here. Just kind of talk this. Red River rivalry is week 6. Oklahoma and Texas, always a fun game. Everybody enjoys that game. I know I do, especially. And that's about it for week 6. That's just going to be really jaw-dropping matchups. Week 7, you have the third Saturday in October. You have Alabama and Tennessee. Wow. I just noticed this. All right, so week 6, 7, and 8. And then week 6 through 10 for Alabama is a pretty tough stretch here. Check this out. So week 6, you've got Georgia, Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU. They do have a bye week before they play LSU. But that's a pretty rough stretch right there for Alabama. Georgia, Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU. Wow. So Alabama's able to survive that. There won't be no denying if the Tide's still here or if DeBoer's kind of laid down on them or, what their thought process on that. But that's a rough 4-game stretch right there that if Alabama's able to overcome that, they'll be sitting really good for the rest of the season, considering that they go to Vanderbilt and beat Vandy, and then they have Chattanooga, and they had to end the year off at the Iron Bowl, which we never know, right? We never know in that game. Alabama's been winning that game, won that game 6 years in a row now. So, but it's always a close game, and we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Let's see. I tell you what I did notice when we're looking at the schedule breakdown here. I see Georgia Tech on here twice. Obviously they play Georgia every year. They're also playing Tennessee this year. So that's 2 That's 2 out-of-conference Power 4 opponents for Georgia Tech. That's out of their conference. So they got a pretty tough schedule this year too, and we'll look at that later on in the offseason. Just something that I noticed when I was looking over this graphics that Georgia Tech plays Georgia and Tennessee this year. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Let's see. Mississippi State plays Oklahoma week 8. What's Jeff Lebby going to do? I think that he's doing everything possible in his power during the offseason this year to make Mississippi State, get them over that hump. And it seems like he's rebuilding that program right. Really like Jeff Lebby. I think that he's going to do great there. He has a chance to go and potentially win this bowl game coming up here in a couple weeks against Wake Forest. So it'll be exciting. I know he's ready to get them extra practices in with his team. And, man, I tell you what, I think Mississippi State's going to be a lot better this year if they start – or this next year coming up if they start Mario Taylor. If they don't have him at quarterback, man, I really, really question Jeff Lebby's ability as a coach. So that was week 8. Week 9 comes around, and you've got Alabama versus LSU. Always an interesting matchup. Always interesting matchup. Ole Miss versus Georgia. Then you have South Carolina versus Texas A&M. And then Vandy versus Alabama. Nope. That was week 11. So, tons of matchups coming up, man. Tons of them. Let me know what you guys think on the schedule. And do you like the 8-game conference matchups better? Do you like the thought of moving to the 9-game? Let me know in the comments below what you think. And like I said, I just wanted to get on here for a few minutes and throw a little something together for y'all. We've all been on the run this weekend, and we're just trying to get something together for you guys. I just wanted to do an overall view of the scheduling. This 9-game conference is going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. Everybody's schedules has gotten harder. Some have a little less pop to it than some of the others do. I'll be honest with you. When I look at these schedules, just glancing at it, there's not many of them that I can say, oh, that was not that bad. That was not that bad. No, they're all pretty tough. I think some teams noteworthy of having hard schedules. Mississippi State's got a pretty good gauntlet on their hand this coming season. I think Auburn's got a really, really tough schedule, especially playing Baylor at Atlanta week 1. I think that Missouri's got a really, really rough schedule. And like I just said about Bama, man, I mean, that 4-game stretch they have between week 6 and week 10 is it's pretty rough. But this is SEC football. This is what we signed up for, right? Bring it on. You can win. Good teams find ways to win. And that's exactly what we expect in the SEC. And it's going to be interesting. So let me know what you guys think. A little bit of a shorter video today. Like I said, we're going to dive into this in the offseason and get everything together for y'all. And looking forward to it. Make sure y'all check us out Thursday on our live show. It's going to be great. You guys will really enjoy it. Well, the Thursday Tailgate Lives for the Common Fan Podcast. If y'all don't know, now you do. We're inviting you. We're going to go in. We're going to bring up the playoff brackets. We're going to make predictions. We're going to say who's going to win it, win the whole national championship. We're going all in on it. We're going to break down the games. Y'all, it's going to be really fun. Kyle and Cameron should be back by then. And that way y'all don't just have to listen to a 25-minute video of just me talking. So appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. We'll see y'all next time. Please like and subscribe. This has been another episode of Common Fan Podcast.
You've been listening to The Common Fan. See y'all next time. Same tailgate.